Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Thank you for hanging with us. Molly Karam here with you over at the desk. Freddie Coleman, host of The Freddie Coleman Show. Kate Fagan, ESPNW columnist, and ESPN's Will Cain. Coming up, LeBron keeps his talents in Cleveland, and the coach, Herm Edwards, weighs in on Greg Hardy in the latest fireworks casualties in the NFL. But first, Mark Cuban responded for the first time since DeAndre Jordan reneged on his verbal agreement with the Mavs to re-sign with the Clippers. Dear Mavs fans, there will be a time when I detail everything. I know regarding the last 48 hours, I don't think the time is right to say anything beyond the facts that he never responded to me at all once yesterday, not once. To this minute, I have not heard anything from him since Tuesday night. In an interview with ESPN.com, Chandler Parsons had the following to say. He wasn't ready to be a franchise player. He was scared. He was scared to take the next step in his career. There was no other reason other than that. He was comfortable and has friendships there. How you make a business decision like that is beyond me. How you ignore an owner like Mark, who is in your hometown just waiting for a chance to talk to you, is beyond me. Doc Rivers also chiming in on the situation with a very different sentiment. Essentially, he said this: it's fine that DeAndre's agent handled the call. That's why you hire reps. So we've heard from both sides now at this point. Will,
yes.
What do you think of DeAndre?
Now let's hear from Will.
Yes.
You've heard from Doc. You've heard from Mark. Now let's hear from Will. I got to wipe the smile off my face because I really don't feel very happy about this. I think over the last 3 days, DeAndre Jordan has revealed a total lack of character and a total lack of integrity. Now, I want to be transparent and honest with everybody here. I'm from Texas. I'm a big Mavs fan. But I'm also not just from Texas, Freddie. I am from a school of thought that when you look someone in the eye and you shake their hands, no matter what the legalities or formality of rules are, when you do that, man to man or woman to woman, you have to live up to your word. It is your ethical duty to do what you said you would do. And DeAndre Jordan not only did that, if he hadn't already convinced us of his lack of character, he couldn't even call or text or respond to Mark Cuban when he decided he had changed his mind. There is no ethical defense of his behavior.
You want this?
Of course I do. You know what? He should have called Mark Cuban. I'm completely with you on that. I think there's a way to handle something when you gave a verbal agreement of 4 years, $80 million to go to the Dallas Mavericks. I'm not against DeAndre Jordan changing his mind. I don't like the fact that he did not contact somebody. I don't care if you had to have your agent in the room with you. I think there has to be a certain stand when it comes to that. I'm with you on that one. But I'm not going to get into his character because I've seen too many owners pull the same nonsense on players where they say, you're not going to be traded. We're going to keep you on our basketball team. We want you here. And then the trading deadline comes. You know what? We decided we changed our mind. We're going to go in a different direction. And the player has to deal with that. Now, if you're DeAndre Jordan, you better be able to live up to this $22 million per year contract because people are going to look at you as a celebrity right now saying, hey, you're the one that decided that you didn't want to go to Dallas. You are scared to be a franchise player. Chandler Parsons put you on blast, and you got to either prove that right or prove that wrong. But it didn't change anything for me with DeAndre Jordan because I've seen this happen in the NBA, in the NFL, and in Major League Baseball, and I've seen with owners doing this, I've seen with coaches do this, and general managers. Do I like it? No, I don't like it. I think you should. You're right, Will, that you should have something there to say if you give somebody your word, you own them to your word. But because I've seen owners cry wolf in loyalty situations, nothing against Mark Cuban, nothing against Dallas, but you can't all of a sudden say, how dare you do something like that when we've seen that happen time and time again in the NBA from owners like Mark Cuban who have said one thing and have done something completely different.
And I think my issue here is trading in absolutes about DeAndre Jordan. I mean, I think even on Twitter you said this is the destruction of his character. And I would argue that this is also part of a construction that we have about like what it means to be a man and how like if you're too sensitive and you're not paying attention to what you feel inside, that is a bad thing in our society. I think DeAndre Jordan did the right thing in listening to his own internal compass here. I think that we too often say, you know, keep walking down that path, even though you've already set the train in motion. Even if you want to hit stop, you shouldn't because of what we want in our society about how people are going to think about you, what people are going to say about you if you do that. And I think you even mentioned, you know, two wrongs don't make a right in this.
Oh, you're coming? Yeah.
Okay? But here's what I would say. You know what the two wrongs would have been? Is if DeAndre Jordan committed to the Mavs, knew it wasn't the right decision, and then went to Dallas. I actually think those are the two wrongs here. If he knew internally that that wasn't the right decision for him, then of course he should not have gone to Dallas. I think it's way more difficult in our society, especially the way professional sports are constructed and all of the myths we have about what it means to be a professional athlete and how tough you have to be. It is harder to do what DeAndre Jordan did. Now, do I think, we don't know the whole story about Mark Cuban, right? Of course, Mark Cuban's like, at some point you'll know all the details. If it is that nobody called him, none of DJ's reps called him, nobody talked to Mark Cuban, I can't defend that. But DeAndre Jordan changing his mind and saying that's the total destruction of his character makes zero sense to me.
Well, it only lacks to make sense if you and I disagree on whether or not honesty is a foundational moral principle, and it appears we do. I don't believe you follow your feelings as they change with the wind and set aside the word you have given other people. I want to respond to both of you. You inoculated yourself to the two wrongs don't make a right. Freddie, when you point out that coaches or organizations or other players do this as well, I'm not going to defend that behavior. When college coaches stand in front of a team and say, I'm here next year, boys, count on it. Commit. Stay here because I'll be here. And then they turn around and leave. I indict that as well. All you've done is tell me because someone else is wrong, DeAndre's allowed to be wrong. And it may be trite, it may be a cliche.
Who says he's wrong for changing his mind?
Well, then that gets to the disagreement with both of you guys. I fundamentally believe that honesty is a principle that is good, that doesn't need to be modified in our society because you might have different feelings.
You haven't changed your mind.
We're not modifying his honesty.
Of course I did. Of course I did,
Did you ever trust your gut when you made a mistake in life? Did you not trust your gut?
I try to prioritize my mind and morals above my gut, and here is why. Because DeAndre's feelings, as they change, don't just impact him. That's a symptom of this me-first society where whatever I feel is right. Well, how about J.J. Barea? How about Charlie Villanueva? How about Wes Matthews? How about Chandler Parsons? How about Mark Cuban in a multi-million-dollar organization that had been set back 4 to 5 years, not to mention the players who could have signed with Dallas that didn't, that all relied on DeAndre Jordan's word. You want to defend DeAndre Jordan? I think you have to answer to all the people that relied on his word and the ripple effect of his dishonesty.
Well, to your point, though, this is a business. These things go on where people change their minds and they're allowed to change their minds. That doesn't mean they're being dishonest. That doesn't mean they're not being transparent. DeAndre Jordan thought that Dallas was where he wanted to be. There have been situations that I've been in where I said, you know what, that's the person I wanted to be with. Then also after the first date, that's not a good idea. I know I told her we might have a second date. I'm going to have to change my mind on this one because that's not going to work out.
When he didn't tell Dallas he changed his mind?
No, well, I'm not saying that he's...
That's not dishonesty. That might be immaturity.
That's immaturity.
That's immaturity.
It's lying by omission. I'm making Freddie so mad.
I know.
That's
not dishonesty. I mean, I'm with you about a me-first generation. I don't like the fact that, hold on a second, I'm not saying you. I don't like the fact that this generation feels they can make decisions and also because they're getting paid a lot of money that there are no consequences or repercussions. DeAndre Jordan better figure out that players are going to throw vitriol and shade at him because he changed his mind. But he also knows I'm getting $22 million per year for the next 4 years in the Los Angeles Clippers. If Mark Cuban got his underwear in a bunch about this, that's Mark Cuban's problem. That seems to be that kind of thing I don't like about the younger generation. But I'm not going to call DeAndre Jordan dishonest because he changed his mind. He made a verbal agreement. It's not a binding contract. That means that he didn't put his name on the dotted line. He's entitled to change his mind and either stay with Dallas or go back to the Clippers. That's not being dishonest.
Y'all are looking at too many Time magazine covers with this me-first generation. Also, there is very little more cliche than frowning upon the next generation and making sweeping statements.
Let me just say,
I'm not frowning upon it. I'm just stating the facts.
I'm not indicting a generation. I think the baby boomers are some of the selfish people ever.
What is the me-first generation here?
It's society. It's this entire society that says, it's, quite honestly, Kate, it's what you just said. Follow your feelings as they change. Don't worry if it impacts dozens of other players, organizations. Don't worry about who it affects. Do what you feel is right.
I mean, we have criticized DeAndre Jordan for supposedly being sensitive, right? Because that somehow has been used as a pejorative.
I haven't criticized.
Not you necessarily, but I have heard many people on there saying he's too sensitive, as if it is a pejorative. I want athletes, I want people in my life who are going to respond to how they feel, regardless of how they used to feel, because that stuff changes. I don't want you to be on a train just because the train was in motion and you put it in motion. I want you to be in the right place for you when you need to be there. That's what I want.
That's honesty.
What I want. But DeAndre Jordan was not dishonest. He changed his mind. he was honest. He said he wanted to commit to the Mavs, which I think he did possibly because he wanted to be back in L.A. I don't think he knew exactly what he wanted. So did he make a mistake there? Do I wish in best case circumstances he would have just re-signed with the Clippers where it seems like it was best for him? But here are the two wrongs here. He should have been with L.A. He made a mistake and committed to Dallas. And then he goes to Dallas just because he doesn't want to be frowned upon as changing his mind, as being dishonest, as
I'm going to let this go, but it's not about
immature.
popularity, Kate. There's still got to be a place for someone's eye contact, handshake, and word. DeAndre Jordans have no value.
I got a question for you. If DeAndre Jordan was with your Mavericks team, wanted to sign with L.A., changed his mind, and decided to stay with your team, would you have to say
loyalty,
yes?
Freddie. That's loyalty. No. I'm saying that would be Will's argument. That would be Will's argument.
Look, I was honest about my fandom, and I'll be honest, my emotions might be different, but
That's fine.
But the principle wouldn't be different.
All right. At least you're staying true to your belief.
And I think your agent handling your business is that's why you
That's
pay
actually
him or her.
like the definition of their
That's
job.
the point. And also, if the Clippers came correct initially, hey, this might not have ever happened. Moving on, though. LeBron James had agreed to sign a 2-year contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers worth a maximum of $46.9 million. Sources told ESPN's Chris Broussard and Brian Windhorst on Thursday. The second year of the contract is a player option, sources says. The deal follows James' plan to keep year-to-year flexibility to take advantage of the expected increases in the salary cap. So let's take a look at the Cavs' projected lineup next season. Kyrie Irving, Iman Shumpert, LeBron, Kevin Love, and Anderson Varejao. Can he win the title with this team, Freddie?
Sure. Will he do it this year? No. Because I think the West is still too strong, and I still wonder if David Blatt is still the right coach for this basketball team, because that's still that black cloud that's still there. I mean, maybe they'll have a sit-down by the pool that LeBron and Kevin Love had, where they held hands, sang Kumbaya, shared fruits and vegetables, and then everything was okay, and Kevin Love decided to sign for that kind of money.
Will have to bring over his own chair for that meeting?
Probably. Yeah, I think that's, LeBron, he's coming to LeBron. LeBron's not going to go to him or meet him in like a neutral location.
Or banana boat.
Yeah, we can all ride the banana
whatever ice cream sundae you're going to bring to the table, David Blatt's going to have to bring it. I think that's the one thing about Cleveland, that I like their lineup. I like the free agent moves that they've been able to make. I think Mo Williams coming off the bench will add more depth to this basketball team. Kyrie Irving, you hope that he can stay healthy for a full season, so that's something he has to work on. I think Kevin Love may be the most motivated guy, not named LeBron James, because people still have questions about him. But I still look at the Western Conference where, sorry to do this to you, Will, the Clippers are better because they kept DeAndre Jordan, they got Lance Stevenson. We know Golden State's still going to be talented. San Antonio, on paper right now, may be the best team in the NBA. So I think he's going to win a championship with this team. I just don't think it's going to be this year, because I still wonder at a certain point, if you're David Blatt, if it continues that LeBron is going to wield his power, and believe me, if I could do that, I would too, when are you going to stand up for something or fall for anything, and how that's going to work, where that could be a dynamic in the Cleveland locker room, that they have to deal with if this continues based on what we saw at the end of last year?
The one thing I have about the coaching statement you make is I'm not sure what coach would get something different from LeBron. Certainly if LeBron handpicked the coach, maybe then there's more latitude for that coach. But at the end of the day, LeBron is always going to be looking at that whiteboard, and if he doesn't like the play that's on it, he's going to want to change that whiteboard. I do think the Cavs can win with this group. I'm with you that because of what the Spurs did, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I think the Cavs are winning next year. Would I put them as one of my favorites? Absolutely,
Sure.
Of course. I think Vegas has them right now at the top favorite. I don't know how that's shifted since all of the free agency. But the thing I point to about this group, too, is we haven't seen how these guys play when all three are locked in. Mm-hmm. And I don't just mean like locked in mentally. I mean locked in contract-wise. I mean, Kevin Love last year, when he came, he was on that. Was he going to opt out? Wasn't he? Although he said the right things, we all talked about him as if he was like transitory for the Cavaliers. Mm-hmm. Now you've got those big three. LeBron's locked in emotionally because it's Cleveland. Kyrie and Kevin are locked into long-term deals. Now you've got a big three, and they're not in flux. And I think that's going to make a huge difference when you look at the product on the floor.
Not just locked in contractually, but actually present on the floor. That team, that lineup you just showed, was it 2/5 of it wasn't on the floor in an NBA Finals that went 6 games. Mm-hmm. No Kyrie Irving, no Kevin Love, and they took the Warriors to 6 games. I love the Western Conference. That says something about the Cavs. Give this team a year to play together, another year to gel. By the way, that was the first year those guys were together. Give that team another year, and I'm with Vegas. No one can say what's going to happen, but if you give me $1,000 and ask me where to put it, I'm putting it on the Cavs. They have the best player in the world. It's ridiculous to think there's another MVP outside of him. People just got the Jordan effect and got bored with him. That's why Curry got
I
it.
completely agree with you on that one.
Curry's good.
I completely
But let's
agree.
be real. There's no MVP outside of LeBron. And he's got Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving for a full season. Assuming that happens, my $1,000 is on the Cavs.
It's like Miami. I mean, think about it when he initially went down there, and we talked about gelling, and it took a little time, and then they got it done.
Right, they lost to Dallas that first year, and then they come back and win it. And also, that Western Conference is going to beat each other up even in the playoffs. Golden State this year kind of got through unscathed until we saw Klay Thompson get that concussion.
They had a lot of charmed
at the
existence
Western
that happened to
Conference.
them a lot of
They didn't
the
have to
time.
run into San Antonio. They ran into Houston, who had kind of been battered a bunch too, and also wasn't, in my opinion, the strongest team to be playing.
Memphis
at the
losing Mike
end.
Conley for a little bit.
So to have to run into San Antonio and possibly LA in the Western Conference, and then you're arriving to face Cleveland, who, if you look at the Eastern Conference now, maybe Miami, Atlanta, of course, is always tough, but they're going to be arriving possibly with a sweep and then a sweep and maybe a 5-game
I
series.
still can't get over the fact that a team with their second and third best player missing took Golden State to 6 games.
Well,
Gave them all they could handle.
It shows the brilliance of LeBron James, to
Absolutely.
your point, number one. And number two, it shows how tough it is to win an NBA playoff game, much less an NBA series. I don't think people understand how great these guys are. I don't think people understand, LeBron did this, he could have done better. Really? You're saying that he couldn't do much, he had to do much more than he already did on the basketball court. And I'm not going to punish Golden State for the fact that Cleveland was a beaten-up team at the end of the year, because we know what the narrative would have been if Golden State would not have been able to pull that off. Paper tiger, paper champion. So I'm going to give them credit that, hey, they didn't lose when people thought, down 2-1, look out. They were able to find a way to win. I just look at Cleveland, I just want it from a standpoint of when everybody is together, you're going to have to find that one guy outside of LeBron James. You can't have LeBron James players look at him and say, what is he going to do? And David Blatt's trying to be the head coach. And if that continues to be a problem in that locker room, that could be a big issue for the Cleveland Cavaliers going forward, because LeBron James may be the de facto coach, but his title does not say head coach. And if that's going to be a problem in that locker room, then how are they going to address that? Well, what if that divides the locker room? Guys, hey, LeBron, you got too much power. He's still the head coach. That's something that could be a hidden factor that, if it raises ugly head, could really tear apart Cleveland in terms of winning a championship this year.
And I'll add that I do think that Cleveland, if you're looking at the longevity of these 3 players and how many titles they want to win, I don't want to see LeBron James playing 82 games during the regular season next year. And I know this is part of the me first generation.
Wow.
Society.
Because
remember, I'm not indicting you.
Those old school
I'm
NBA
indicting
players,
everybody.
those old school NBA players would play all 82 games. But the number of minutes he's played, even if you look at the postseason, he's played entire NBA careers in those postseason games. I don't think he should play more than 68 games in the regular season. We saw him take a couple weeks off. There was a nagging injury. I'm fine with him resting during the regular season if we get more of that basketball that we saw in the playoffs this year.
Maybe take a page out of Pop's playbook now that they'll have a little more,
Exactly,
more depth.
yeah.
So 2 things. Cavs are still the 2-1 favorites, and DeAndre Jordan is still a Clipper.
Wow. Really? You
That's
just
what
love
I'm saying.
antagonizing him, don't
One
you?
makes sense and the other doesn't.
Yeah, they
All
both
right.
make sense. Don't pay attention to him.
Don't miss First Take next week as we head to Los Angeles. Skip and Stephen A. will be back in the house. I'm sure they have plenty to discuss from being off this long. We'll be live from the ESPYs. We're going to have a star-studded lineup of special guests for you beginning Monday on ESPN2. So don't miss First Take live from LA next Monday through Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. The Spurs announced that they re-signed Tim Duncan, and according to NBA.com, Duncan will get $5 million with a player option for the 2016-2017 season. This comes shortly after David West took a $1.5 million deal from the Spurs after opting out of a $12 million player option with the Pacers. Petty cash. Should it be about the rings or the money?
We just got into the segment where my team can't give a guy. The Dallas Mavericks can't give a guy
better.
$20 million, and guys fly to the Spurs for $1.
Settle
This will
down.
make you happy.
It's all Texas, though. Go on over to the San
It
Antonio
used to be a
side.
rivalry, Kate. I can't proudly say that anymore.
Hammer versus nails never a rivalry. Nail always loses. My argument on this is, I'm not against anybody trying to get their paper, especially in this day and age. Your career could be over in a second. So I'm not going to not applaud David West. I mean, apparently he's financially wealthy and independent where he doesn't have to worry about having $11 million going to the win and not have that. He looked at that and said, I've made enough money. I'm going to go after the rings in this standpoint because I know that team gives me the best chance for a ring. But if someone had given him, if the Spurs had come in and said, that's great, you're joining us, here's $8 million, he's not going to turn it down. He's not crazy from that standpoint. I think if the money is going to be there, you go out there and make sure that you're going to be set up and hope that you're on a basketball team that'll be able to surround you with players where you can go out there and chase that ring, because a lot of guys get into the NBA, they never say about being part of a championship team. What do they usually say? Man, my dreams are going to come true, and they got dollar signs in the back of their head because they want to get to that second contract. They want to get to that big money max deal kind of contract after that rookie deal is over. So it sounds selfish, but you know what? Pro sports are made up of a lot of selfish people. Society is made up of a lot of selfish people.
What about the media? We're not selfish.
Media, plenty of selfish people. If we can get something for free, we'll do it any time of the day. Absolutely. And you know what? I'm not going to be against anybody. If you have a chance to set yourself up, set your family up, and make that work for your future. If the rings come later, great. If they don't, it just wasn't for you when it's all said and done. I think you go get your paper, worry about everything else.
Right. I think you hope it's about both, right? You hope that guys can put themselves in a position where they can make money and be in contention, and also want to be in contention, because there's a lot of guys out there who want to make money, and you think they're upset when they're not making the playoffs? Some of them are very happy to be heading to the Caribbean. Yeah. You hope it's both. At the beginning of your career, if you told me it was all about money, I would not begrudge you anything, right? If you had to go certain places because they were willing to pay you more, but maybe they weren't in contention, and there's a significant difference in money, you like Freddie said, like you gotta make the money. Now, at the end of the career is where I think it gets really interesting. I think that's where you got guys, and you should have guys, once they've made their money, that want to win and are willing to take, what did we see? West take $11 million less. And this is almost like a self-selection that happens. If you're willing to take $11 million less, my bet is you're also willing to dive on the floor at the end of a game, right? Maybe not, but I bet that most people are willing to take less to go somewhere else, also are willing to do the little things that make a championship team. Otherwise, why'd you take less money in the first place? So if I'm the Spurs, I'm looking at these guys, and I'm specifically looking at West, and I'm like, we hit a gold mine here, because not only are we paying a talented guy worth more or less, but we've also probably got a guy willing to do the things that we need him to do and not be a pain.
They've got several talented guys. They're playing less than market value. Tim Duncan, David West. Look, I feel for these players because they can't win in the court of public opinion. You chase the money like Carmelo, you're a villain. You chase the titles like LeBron when he goes to the Miami Heat, you're a villain. It's interesting to ask, what's the difference between LeBron going to Miami and all of these guys flocking to San Antonio? I think the only reason that we can differentiate the two is this. When that happened with LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh teaming up, it felt like the kids on the schoolyard who are the best, ganging up on everybody else, going to the coolest location. Whereas with San Antonio, you see guys buying into a system, a coach, a style of play in a city that not too long ago Mark Cuban and Charles Barkley made fun of as a backwater in Texas, making fun of the Riverwalk as brown water. It's amazing to think about how far San Antonio has come and why they've come that way. Strictly built upon the culture of their business model. You got to give San Antonio respect, and trust me, I do it begrudgingly.
And LeBron James being in the middle of that, he's always going to be a polarizing figure. Let's be honest. If LeBron James had taken less money at the end, it takes less money at the end of his career to go to San Antonio, someone's going to find fault with that because of his name, LeBron James. David West does it, and everybody's like, man, that's pretty cool that David West did something like that, because it's David West and it's not a LeBron James. And when you have that kind of personality and that kind of aura in the league, that people look at you, and they're always not going to look at you the same way. Kevin Durant, next year when he becomes a free agent, will not have to worry about people looking at him differently. If he decides to Oklahoma City, people are going to say, well, yeah, we understand it, because you have a chance to maybe better your situation or go to a team that can give you a better chance to win a championship. Let LeBron think about leaving Cleveland. If Cleveland disintegrates, let's say in 2 or 3 years, the organization is not where it is right now, and he has eyes elsewhere, he will get murdered on social media and in the press because of his name being LeBron James and not because it's David West or something.
Let's also point out the differences between LeBron going to Miami and David West going to San Antonio. First of all,
those two aren't comparable.
They're not the same.
Well, right, Carmelo and LeBron. But when LeBron went to Miami, number one, like, did he take a little bit less money? Yes. Was there a huge sacrifice? No. Were there other benefits when you're talking about taking a little less to be with guys, with marketing, with, like, creating the Beatle Rockstar Tour? It wasn't just less money there. Marginally less money.
It was a better team. You went to a better organization.
What West
no, but
is
it's not comparable to your point.
It's not. Completely different. Completely different. And there were more benefits to him financially going to Miami in terms of the elevated stature and what that brought to the game as well.
The truth is, David West is comparable, and I'm going to sound like such a homer again, to Dirk Nowitzki, who's given up tens of millions of dollars in hopes that the Mavericks would sign somebody like DeAndre Jordan and sign Chandler Parsons. So David West just needs to realize the risk he's taken before we crown the Spurs. Remember the 2003 Lakers? That team looked stacked on paper. It was Kobe, it was Shaq, it was Karl Malone, it was Gary Payton, and that team went nowhere. The 2011 Philadelphia Phillies had a rotation of Oswalt, Cole Hamels, Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay. They were good for 1 year. They reverted to 500. So the San Antonio Spurs look good on paper. I anticipate they will be. But there's a chance David West gave up $11 million for no title.
It's the culture, though. I mean, to your point about with Philadelphia, they were in win-now mode. It was either boom or bust for them because they placed so much on the salaries, having those big-name players. With the Lakers, you had a lot of guys where there were so many egos in that locker room. I can't even imagine what it must have been like. You walk into a locker room and there's Phil Jackson, Gary Payton, Karl Malone, Shaq, and Kobe Bryant. There was no air in that locker room. David West knows what he's getting into at San Antonio. I'm sure he's thinking, okay, there are no guarantees. You're exactly right about that, but you wouldn't go someplace that you feel you couldn't win if you weren't going to be around guys that have the same mentality. And that's why I kind of compare not San Antonio and Miami. Pretty much Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James, they got together. They knew what they were there for. They knew exactly why they got together. You had to be the bullies, but to win a championship. Heaven forbid they were 4 years together and had 0 championships. Can you imagine what that would have been like for all 3 of those guys? They would not have been able to deal with it. David West already knows, I don't have a championship. Those guys know how to get it. I know what I've gotten myself into. I'm not going to come in here and have an ego situation where I'm going to have Tim Duncan and everybody else giving me stink eye because I left $11 million on the table.
And this is very, like, Karl Malone and Gary Payton are very different than LaMarcus Aldridge and Kawhi Leonard, another guy we haven't mentioned. The Spurs are not taking guys in the twilight of their career and banking on them.
They're setting up. They already had those guys.
And they also have a succession plan to give to LaMarcus and Kawhi Leonard, which is vastly different than what the Phillies did and what the Lakers did, vastly different than most of the time what we see in professional sports. We see most of the time teams have guys and they let them run out completely. The gas runs out of the tank and you don't know what they're going to do afterward. The Spurs have set themselves up.
The argument isn't the Spurs won't be good. It's just to acknowledge the risk that David West took. He could have taken $11 million risk to wind up in the same position that Dirk Nowitzki is now or Karl Malone was in 2003. And therefore give him more respect. He took that risk.
I give him all the respect in the world.
I'll tell you this. I'm not going to take that risk. To go back to our previous conversation, I'll put my money on the Cavs.
That's fine. I'll put my money in the Spurs.
But we're all confident these are the type of guys you want to be in the trenches with. These type of players in terms of being willing to take the money and go for the chip.
Well, if a guy goes after money, I'm not going to question his motivation. More often than not, he's going to take the money to make more money.
Yeah.
So, of course, he's going to want to make sure he and his team are better because if that happens, not only is he going to win, everybody is going to win. It's like the Magic Johnson theory. He said, I never worried about making money because I felt if we won a championship, then everybody's going to win. But he said, make no mistake. I was going after that paper, too, because I knew exactly what was on the other side, whether we won a championship or not.
Commissioner Roger Goodell is still considering information gathered in Tom Brady's appeal hearing for his 4-game suspension for his role in the Deflategate scandal. Goodell has told CNBC that a decision is coming very soon and could be as early as next week. For this, we welcome in the coach. To the desk. Hello, hello.
For Roger, right? Everybody's waiting.
Yes, yes.
And whatever he decides, half of the people say it's great. The other half of the people say it's no. Some people say he brokered a deal with Kraft. We got all the scenarios already.
This is very divided here on this one. How much pressure is Goodell under?
He's not under pressure.
No?
No. That's his job description. His job description is obviously to protect the shield. The owners hired him. He has the obligation to make sure that the rules and the regulations are never compromised. Now, whether we agree with that and how he goes about his business, we can all say that. We all sit in everyone else's seat and say, well, I would have done it this way. He has a job to do. He's going to make a ruling. He's gathering information. If it's 2 games, obviously everybody's going to say, guess what? No. Mr. Kraft, he brokered a deal. When he decided to say, you know what, we're okay, whatever sanctions you put on our organization, we're good with it. Everybody said, he brokered a deal if Brady gets 2. All right, if Brady stays with 4, people say, oh, that's unfair. He doesn't have enough information. How can he do that? He's mad at the Patriots. No matter what way it goes, he sits in the chair of he can never be right. And he understands that.
That's absolutely right. He's in a no-win situation, but I'm not sure that means he's under no pressure. It depends on what kind of guy Roger Goodell is. When you're in a no-win situation, do you realize no matter what I do, no one's going to be happy?
He's like the president.
And let it go?
Like the president, right?
Or do you own all that burden of everybody hating you? So that's the question. You're right, though. Let me say this. If he reduces that penalty, it looks like the inmates run the asylum. If he upholds that penalty, it looks like reducing the ball pressure 1 PSI is more egregious than hitting a woman. How exactly does Roger Goodell win? He knows he can't, so you know what he does? He fakes it. He gives fake punishments to appease people that he knows will not be upheld. Adrian Peterson, this one, Greg Hardy's 10-game suspension. Every one of those are done for PR purposes, to look tough, knowing eventually that'll never be what the penalty is. I think he's under a ton of pressure, and I think his behavior shows it.
Fake punishment? I'm confused by that.
Well, he gives a punishment. We know Adrian Peterson got banished for a year. Greg Hardy got 10 games. Tom Brady has 4 games. But none of those actually end up being what the suspension results.
Okay.
Well, Willie knows this. It's always he's going to really go on the high side of it, knowing the NFLPA is going to be involved in it. It's going to go to, if it goes to court, someone else is going to be involved in it. So he walks away with saying, look, this is what I decided to do. Mm-hmm. Now, it was ruled against me. I can't do that. And so he would rather be stern than lenient. You know, and that's how he's done it. Now, I must say this. We have been a reactionary league. And that's the problem I have with the whole deal. You can go back to the domestic violence situation. That policy should have been tore up 20 years ago. Okay, it was way outdated. I understand that. I agree 100%. But we are a reactionary league, and that's where the problem lies. We always look like, oh, when something happens, what are they going to do now? Oh, well, I better do this for this. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like we're public officials. We kind of throw things out there for people to put on Twitter, and we kind of get the pulse of the fans. And then we go, you know what? Oh, we better do this.
I think we just agreed 100%.
No, that's the problem I have.
Okay.
These are 100% PR moves.
It's done in a way where we want to feel the temperature.
Okay. How many teams are in the NFL?
32.
This is why Roger Goodell is under no pressure. He has 32 bosses that he makes a lot of money for. We're going to have 2 teams in Los Angeles. We're going to have a team in Europe, whether it's London, England, or somewhere else. Until I hear more than a majority of owners put pressure on Roger Goodell, public opinion means absolutely not a damn thing to me. And that's why he's under no pressure. If it comes out, whatever decision he puts out there, the people who put pressure on him, 32 owners are like, hey, Roger, you handled it. You did the best you could. Keep making us a lot of money. That's why he's not under any pressure no matter what decision he's going to make. We know Tom Brady's not going to like it unless it's 0. We know Robert Kraft deep down inside is not going to like it because I wouldn't want my quarterback, one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, out for any game. However, if you're going to say that, oh, Roger Goodell, if you make the wrong decision, your job's in jeopardy, Roger Goodell is laughing in your face when it comes to stuff like that because he's got 32 bosses that are going just like this. Hey, Roger, keep it up.
Yeah, but Robert Kraft, doesn't he have to keep him happy? I mean, there's owners, and then there's owners.
Yeah,
there's Jerry Jones. There's Robert Kraft. There's Dan Snyder.
But he's got the 2 of the 3 on his side. Majority rules in this situation. Robert Kraft is not the main owner in the National Football League. Molly, your point is right about there's certain owners that have that kind of cachet. But I haven't heard, even when Robert Kraft stood down and had that press conference, that told me a lot about, you know what, I may disagree with Roger Goodell, but in this situation, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to create this harmony because I don't like how he's handling it.
Well, when Kraft stepped down, that did not surprise me. Because he has to deal with the 31 other owners, knowing that this has been an embarrassment. For 4 months, we've been talking about Deflategate. I mean, it's embarrassing.
With no resolution.
To the league and for everyone else. I mean, we got tired of talking about it. And the owners are sitting there going, hey, look, you know, our brand right now, it's not looking good. We got to figure this thing out. And the only owner I knew that would continue to fight was Mr. Davis.
Al Davis.
He didn't care. He was the maverick of all the owners. Matter of fact, he sued the league and won. He was the only one that was able to do it because that was his Al's way. And I think Robert Kraft, at the end, there was other owners that said, you know, enough is enough now. We got to move this. We got to get this off of the front pages. This is becoming bad for us.
Yeah, I mean, the question you have for us on the table is how much pressure he's under.
Yeah.
0.
Freddie apparently feels none.
0.
but he's speaking for himself.
No.
I think Roger Goodell's behavior, and I think Herm and I both agreed and pointed this out, in responding so readily to public opinion, knowing good well that those punishments will have no ultimate meaning, reflects how much pressure
The public can't fire him. They can't.
Then why is he responding so readily to the public?
Because he has an obligation to NFL fans, but they didn't hire him, Will. The 32 owners put him in place. Those are the people that can fire him. He can get as much vitriol from fans as he wants until he hears it from the majority of owners. Roger Goodell's not under any kind of pressure because fan reaction, he only cares about fan reaction when it comes to putting more money in the pockets of the National Football League. As long as fans continue to be lambs to the slaughter and want the National Football League, that's why he's not under any pressure of losing his job or losing in the court of public opinion. He is not going to lose in the court of owners' opinion, and right now he's pretty strong in that court.
They have dictated punishment a little bit, though, just based on the PR perspective.
I don't doubt that. He's not in danger of losing his job.
Just a little bit. We have another guy that unfortunately was in danger over 4th of July weekend. That's Jason Pierre-Paul, injuring both of his hands during a fireworks accident over the weekend. On Wednesday, according to Adam Schefter, his right index finger was amputated, and according to our Ed Warder, he also fractured his right thumb. Ed Warder is also reporting that, according to league sources, JPP is unlikely to sign his franchise tender until he's confident he can pass the team's physical to prevent the Giants from putting him on the non-football injury list. And having full control over the player's return, the thumb is expected to take longer to heal than the wound from the amputated finger. JPP not the only player who had a fireworks mishap. The Bucs' C.J. Wilson also lost 2 fingers over the holiday weekend. Unfortunate situation, Herm. We defer to you. How should the league regulate this?
Regulate what?
I don't know, the
Players
fireworks.
getting hurt, players getting hurt on the offseason?
Yeah.
Players doing silly things?
Yeah. How do you control them?
Well, let me tell you something. Now, I'm the senior citizen. I said that earlier.
You're not. You're the godfather.
Here we go.
Nice.
Until Skip's back.
37 years. 37 years. 30 of them being in the National Football League. The last 7 working here at ESPN talking about the National Football League. Every offseason, players put themselves in harm's way. And so we can regulate. What are we going to do? We're going to fine them? You're going to kick them off the team? Are you kidding me? We're not going to do that. This is what players do in the offseason. My pet peeve was this. The last OTA that we would have as a football team, I would put all the incidents up the prior year to remind them, hey, guys, this is what happened last year after OTAs before guys got to training camp. I would tell them this story. You don't play football until we get to training camp in July. If you're wrong, done or not, that bottom line, that's not good. We're not playing football. Don't put yourself in a bad way. Just do what you do. Have fun. Yeah. We don't want any incidents. But here's the problem with athletes, all professional athletes. They all think, you know what? Won't happen to me. I'm good. They're competitive. They think they can accomplish anything. Oh, I can do that. Look, I was one of those guys. I get it. I fooled around and went skiing, knowing I should have no business skiing, right? Somebody convinced me, let's go skiing. I go up there. I'm an athlete. I can ski, right? The first thing I figured, I put those skis on, and I had to go over to the little slope, you know, and I'm learning how to do all the, yeah. And I'm with an 8-year-old kid, and I'm going, this is ridiculous. I'm going to start getting mad as the hour went by. This is the 8-year-old kid skiing better than me. I said, let me get on one of them lifts. So I get on the lift, took the wrong lift, went way up the mountain. Now I'm up on the mountain going, how am I going to get down?
Yeah,
right?
Call the helicopter.
No, and I came down that hill. Let me tell you something. When I got down that hill, I took those skis off, and I went over there and said, you know what? I want some hot apple cider. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
Kill him alive.
Why were you done?
Because I said I could have killed myself.
There you go.
Okay?
There you go.
But it took me to do it first, and I'm glad I didn't hurt myself. And that's the problem with athletes.
You realized your own fallibility,
Yes.
your own ability to hurt yourself. You said, how do you regulate it? Well, one, there's 2 types of regulation. Preventing it. You're not going to do that. What are you going to do, hire an NFL police force every 4th of July that walks around to players' houses and makes sure they don't light firecrackers? Never going to happen. You can punish it. That's how you regulate it. But you punish it by putting it in your contract, which teams do, that if you hurt yourself in off-field activities, you don't get your money. Your contract is void. And JPP is learning that today. He might be losing money because of this, and he may soon realize that humility that Herm did. How many years ago, Herm?
Oh,
35?
no, at least, 1979?
Man.
And then he'll start
Long
looking
time
at his
ago.
checkbook
God bless
and
you.
realize no more firecrackers.
Yeah.
To both of the gentlemen's point, certain guys are just going to be SOS, stuck on stupid. And unfortunately, you can't regulate that. I'm not saying that JPP is stupid, but he did a stupid thing by putting his career and his life in harm's way trying to have fun. I mean, leave the fireworks, whatever he was doing. It hasn't come out what exactly happened. We may never get to the bottom of that. the truth that's in front of me is that he has 9 digits now. He's one less digit on his finger. In a contract year, in a franchise tag year, that's when you really have to be more judicious in your behavior. You can't regulate guys or legislate against guys in terms of finding them. You can try to do that. They have a very strong union, the National Football League Players Association, that'll make sure you're not able to get away with that if you're an owner, if you're a coach, if you're a GM, whatever. But if J.P. Paul's not the first time he's had an immature moment.
No.
So the New York Giants, not saying they had to have known, nobody could have foreseen something like this happening. But if you're the New York Giants, if you're going to speak to certain guys on your team, that's when you bring JPP and say, look, dude, you had some moments where you have not exactly used the best judgment. Please don't do this to yourself and put yourself in a situation that you may live to regret.
And there's a reason that there's certain players, not I'm saying all of them, but there's certain players all of a sudden they get the franchise tag on it because teams are still a little bit concerned, still questioning, can this guy handle a long-term deal?
Max contract.
You know, and that's part of it as well.
It's worth pointing out, we were talking about this, there was a doctor, and forgive me, Molly, it was on Twitter, so all I can give you is that level of expertise.
Okay.
That means that 100% it was true.
He wasn't
Okay.
a Twitter doctor. He was a doctor on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
That said,
He didn't play a Twitter doctor.
Okay,
he was a real one.
just wanted to
that
make
said,
sure.
the index finger is the least important finger for somebody like a defensive end that needs to grab somebody. That these 3 digits
Silver lining.
from this way to this way create grip strength. Of course, your thumb's the most important. So JPP, I don't know if he learned his lesson. He lost his least important finger.
Well, that's what the doctor said, but he's not playing football.
He's not playing football. Thank you.
He's not the guy out there all of a sudden, you know, I've been playing with five of them. Now I got to play with 4.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
You still
what the
gotta
doctor
grab
said.
people in the
But
NFL.
he's like the fan, you know, like the fan when they watch the game. Oh, how did he drop that ball? Oh, he should catch that ball. It's easy for us to say.
Well, Herman, if I took out a knife and said sacrifice 1 finger, which one are you giving me?
First of all, if you took out that knife, you'd get knocked out.
Well, good thing.
Okay, you wouldn't even get to the knife. Bam!
You may bring
Good thing this is hypothetical.
Will,
I'll give you
you may
I'm
bring
not giving you any of my
Give me a
fingers.
finger.
I like my fingers.
That's Herm's way of saying you may bring the knife over, you limping back. That's what he's telling you right now.
You know what I think we need right now?
Yes.
Hermisms.
Uh-oh.
The wise man once said, nothing good happens after midnight.
Nothing.
Rule of 1. With the rule of 1, you don't get 1 firecrack, though, right?
No, you don't get. Yeah, you get
no
one.
firecrackers.
He
You
wouldn't
don't
like
get
the
one.
next one. He wouldn't like the
What's the
next one.
next
Me?
No,
The next
you
rule.
would not like the next
I
one.
need to-
next
I
one?
need to
Throw
hear
it.
Hermisms
Don't
right
press sin.
Uh-huh.
now. Oh,
Don't press
that's a
sin.
good
Don't
one.
press sin.
Don't press
That's a
in.
good one.
You're a Twitter guy, right? Don't press it. Get you in trouble
Herm,
every
I'm
time.
going to take it another level. Don't press send, especially after midnight.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Sources close to Cowboys defensive lineman Greg Hardy say that Hardy will challenge a ruling that imposes anything more than a 2-game suspension against Hardy for violation of the personal conduct policy. Under the version of the policy that was in place at the time, Hardy allegedly engaged in domestic violence. The standard penalty for a first offense of that nature was a 2-game suspension without pay. Hardy and the NFL Players Association contend that the NFL applied new rules retroactively to Hardy and that the Hardy suspension should be only 2 games based on the rules in place of when the conduct occurred here. So, Kate, how should the league handle this?
You know, I feel like I'm like Skip or Stephen A right now taking a deep breath before they like launch into a 10 minutes. It's a little liquid, but you know, I think we've heard a lot on media and sports media where someone will start a statement by saying, now I don't condone that behavior, and then the rest of the argument often has nothing to do with condemning the behavior, in fact. So I think when you use that tagline at the start, then a lot of times the rest of your argument should follow suit. And I think my problem here with Greg Hardy stating that he doesn't want any more than 2 games, to me reflects that maybe there hasn't been enough reflection by him on his behavior. I think if you look at Ray Rice, we ran a piece on ESPNW that Jay McManus wrote about how, like, Ray Rice deserves another shot in the NFL because he went through counseling. He admitted his mistake. He said what I did was wrong. So my argument is not, I don't think Greg Hardy deserves a second chance or he shouldn't play in the NFL again. I just think when all of his communication has been to this point, here's what I'm not going to accept. Here, I don't want to miss more than this. He has yet to miss $1 of NFL pay to this point since he was paid for all of the previous year. So my issue is, all he's communicated to us is that he doesn't accept responsibility. I mean, he agreed to a settlement with the alleged victim And that's how the charge was dismissed, and we all know that. So at what point has he taken responsibility? That's my issue. Can I name you a number of games that feels right? Sure, I can give you 6, 8, that feels right. I don't know. What would feel right is if he accepted responsibility. So what should the league do? I think the league did what I wanted it to do, which was issue a very severe penalty. Now, you all discussed previously about the fireworks and Goodell's punishment with Deflategate. Maybe does he go over because he knows it's going to come back? Maybe that is the case. Maybe we'll see Greg Hardy with 6 or 8 games. And that will, but I don't know what feels right. What would feel right to me is if Greg Hardy took responsibility in some way that was public and made sense.
So there's a theme for your and my disagreement throughout the day, and that is feel versus what is written down. I don't know what feels right either. You point out that condoning or condemning behavior should be separate or should follow with whatever punishment. What I would tell you is they should be separate. There's a reason we have a guilt phase and a sentencing phase in criminal trials. We can look, and we should look, at what Greg Hardy allegedly did and say, that is horrendous. That is terrible behavior, and we must condemn it in the strongest terms. However, when you move to sentencing, you have to follow the letter of your law. And the letter of the law, when Greg Hardy violated his contract and violated the NFL's policy, was 2 games. You can't go back after the fact and say, I feel like giving you 10 games. Because once you're in that realm, it could be, like to your point, Kate, it could be 6, it could be 8. Why 10? What's 10 have to do with anything except our collective feeling? To our argument earlier, Roger Goodell cannot follow collective feeling. You have to follow the law, the contracts, the CBA that you signed your name to, and that dictates 2 games.
Well, go ahead, Kate. Go ahead.
What happens when there's a complete breach in how we institute our punishment? Because when you look at this issue, he was not punished legally, and there are a lot of issues with how domestic violence is punished. So then he has not yet been punished. And if you look at the NFL, as Herm noted earlier, there's another complete gap in how it was punishing domestic violence. So are we to accept that Greg Hardy just falls through a loophole and his behavior in the end receives almost a nominal punishment because of all of the flaws in both our legal system and the NFL's legal system? And also, they instituted the new policy, which the players' union agreed upon in August. He supposedly agreed to this settlement with this woman months later. There is some overlap there with how he engaged improperly, possibly, in this situation.
Just a short answer to your point. You know what you do is you fix the law. You fix the CBA. You fix the rules. And they have. It will no longer be 2 games, but you can't change the timeline.
Both of you make good points, especially when you sit here and you look at how he's conducted himself compared to Ray Rice. He has no responsibility. There's no remorse. But here again, he sits in a situation where he understands and his lawyers understand these were the rules before. Now, he did not play football. He got paid. You're exactly right. He got paid. In my humble opinion, if you decide to let this guy back in the league, which they decide they're going to do, they're looking at, should we take more games away from him? For me, the first thing you got to do is you got to fine him. You should fine him. I mean, you should take some money away from him, whether it's 4 weeks, 10 weeks, 8 weeks of pay. Take that away from the guy. And then you got to decide, do we continue to say, okay, now it's 6 games, 2 games, 4 games. You know, when you take the player off the field, in my opinion, that affects him the most when they can't play. He's not been able to play football a whole year. Okay, now we come back with a new CBA rule that says, you know what, the rules we had before, they were obviously obsolete. They should have been looked at a long time ago, but obviously when domestic violence became front stage for us, we all looked at it and go, that's what it looks like. This is awful, and we got to change. It's not only in football, in society. I mean, we're talking about football. This should be changed in society as well, okay? In my humble opinion. But when you look at his situation, there was a loophole. You're exactly right. And his team is saying, here's a loophole with the league.
He's saying
with
it's
the
a
union.
victim of circumstances.
Yeah, but he put himself in that situation.
No, but I mean the circumstances in terms that it wasn't in place.
That's
so
exactly
my thing is, and I could be wrong here, but just take the punishment. And I'm not a player, so I don't know, you've already sat out a year and that kind of thing, but just take the punishment, and then maybe we'd see some remorse and go through the process like Ray Rice did. Why are you going to fight it now?
Right. I mean, I'll add a parallel here, which is only a parallel in terms of a suspension and not fighting it is Brittany Griner's situation in the WNBA. There was a lot of groundswell among players in the WNBA saying, don't take that long of a suspension because it's setting a precedent. She was never going to fight that because she accepted responsibility and did not want to put herself in the position to be seen to be fighting a suspension for behavior that she truly felt bad about and wanted to receive counseling, and she didn't want the optics of that to make it seem like she wasn't taking responsibility. And that was the situation in the WNBA. So you're right, when it comes to Greg Hardy, we can talk about legally, loophole, whatever, but if you want to talk about the optics of does he take responsibility, continuing to fight this shows me that there's very little responsibility being taken.
You know, as to what his punishment should be and what his behavior should be, I just simply can't indulge that. In other words, you suggested, Herman, he should lose some money.
Yeah.
Kate, you suggested he should lose 6, 8, 10 games. And if the four of us sitting at this table were in charge, we probably would come to some decent agreement. He did something horrendous. But the truth is, our four feelings can't dictate what is right and what is just. It can only be an agreement of all parties involved. And in this case, it was the players and the teams with prescribed behaviors and illegal behaviors and what the punishment would be. And my only point to you is when you have an agreement like that, everyone's feelings about this sounds right, this is the message we should send, are almost beside the point. You cannot change your punishment after. I have 2 kids. You cannot change the punishment after the fact.
So you're saying 2
You
games.
will not get the behavior you want. If I tell my son, if you do that, you're going to timeout, and he does it, I decide I'm going to spank him for that instead. I promise you, he will feel the injustice.
So you think
and
it
he
should
will
be
not
the 2
correct his
games?
behavior. I think it has to be 2 games. I don't feel it should be anything.
Because
I
that's
think
what it
says
was.
It has to
That
be 2
was
games.
the rule at the time.
That was the rule at the time.
So do you think it should also be 2 games, or now that we've instated these better rules, do we go by the new policy?
You know, I look at it this way. They've taken him off the field for a whole year. Now, whether you say 2 games, well, then people are going to say, well, why is it 2? Why shouldn't it be 4? Okay, 'cause then we get back into it because the rules before said it was 2. You know, I know this. A lot of people are upset in the fact that, you took him off the field, but he still got paid. You know, a lot of people looking at it and say, well, you paid the guy for an injustice, and he still got his salary. He missed games, but you didn't do. So, you know, I'm looking at, well, take some money away from the guy because he's already left the field. He couldn't play football.
You're saying the suspension, in effect, has already been served.
Yes.
But now take some money.
Take some money from the guy.
Because it's a full year,
Yeah.
and then they should
It's a full
reach
year.
into his pocket. I get
Reach
what
into
you're
the
saying.
pocketbook now. Say,
Yeah.
we're going to get you on both
It's been
sides.
way more
You're
than
not
2
going to all of a sudden
games.
just miss 2 games.
Right.
And you've been paid for 16 that you didn't play.
No, that
now you're going to miss
makes
2, and we're only going to take 2 games salary from it? No.
Yeah.
No. That's not right, in my opinion. But I'm not, I'm not the commissioner.
I mean, I will add, though, that when there's a difficult nature of trying to change the justice system. When you're saying society or the NFL, the pressure came from the society. But when there is the rift there between what the punishment should be and what it is in our society, and then when you say, we'll change that, and then you see who's making the laws and who's fighting to make those laws, and it's oftentimes men too there. So there's a lot of layers there to just changing it, where sometimes you have to at least have the discussion and bring some feelings into it to move the conversation forward so that some of the lawmakers then will change some of these things. But it's not as simple as like, oh, well, then change the law, because there are so many more issues wrapped up in that. So sometimes having the conversation does move us maybe toward more concrete issues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would just
to possibly get there.
Use their feelings about what the punishment to be as a placement for how much they hate domestic violence. In other words, I really don't like domestic violence, so I want his punishment to be banishment forever. That doesn't make sense. You can condemn the behavior with all your sense of being and also say, but this is what the punishment's supposed to be because this is what they agreed upon. You can hold both of those opinions.
One thing I do want to say moving this forward, because the NFL was writing my checks about 6 months ago, and this is absolutely egregious, but they are doing a lot, and they know that they didn't handle this properly to deal with domestic violence and try to put in the right protocols, and we went through a lot of training, and I do have to respect and give them kudos to that, and trying to handle it. We know things weren't handled properly before, but moving forward, and this is one of the things that happened prior to trying to...
Well, we're aware of what it looks like, and I think we've known domestic violence is going on in this country. Not just by athletes. And we saw a face of it, and it was ugly.
Yeah.
And I'm glad the league has stepped up, decided to look at their policy and say, you know what, these are way overdue. We need to become better at this, and we need to go into the forefront of this to make a statement, not only to our society. Hey, this cannot be tolerated by any stretch of the imagination.
Certainly the Cavs can't be too comfortable because he's going year to year. But before Kevin Love signed his contract, he had a meeting with LeBron James. And they talked about the future. And Kevin Love walked out of that meeting and today signed a 5-year contract to be with the Cavs for the foreseeable future. And I think that's all you need to know about what LeBron is saying about how long he intends to be in Cleveland.
Brian Windhorst suggesting that LeBron is in Cleveland for the long haul, despite signing a 2-year contract with a player option for the 2nd year. In the last 5 seasons, LeBron has played the most games in minutes. LeBron has played over 2,500 more minutes than the closest player. So how many more years will LeBron keep his talents in Cleveland, Mr. Cain?
I'm going to go with forever.
Forever?
Why not?
Outcast forever? Ever?
You know, they had that movie coming out, the new movie coming out, Trainwreck,
Yep.
right? Starring Amy Schumer and Bill Hader. And there's a moment in the trailer where Bill Hader turns to LeBron and he's telling him how much he loves Amy Schumer. And LeBron says, "Is she your Cleveland?" I mean, is he revealing how he feels about Cleveland?
That's sweet. That's a tender moment.
It would be awkward if he left after that. Here's my argument for
I
why
love awkward moments.
he will stay forever. It can't get any better than this. He's got max money. He can renegotiate on a yearly basis. He's got the most flexibility I think any organization would ever allow him. He now has a great supporting cast. Dan Gilbert has broken out the black card, gone into luxury tax money, gave him Mom Shumpert $40 million. He's committed. Can you find me another owner that committed that he would give away his own flexibility, give away his own money to LeBron James? I think when you think about flexibility, money, and titles, it can't get any better than it is in Cleveland. And you get to recuperate your reputation. You get to be the hometown hero again. He was an underdog for the first time in his life during the NBA Finals. Everyone started to root for LeBron, not against LeBron. It just doesn't get any better for him.
I don't think we're worried about where LeBron's going to be for the next, 3 to 4 to 5 years, right? I mean, I think the only time I could ever see him leaving, and I can't either, is at the very, very end. Now, if you told me he didn't yet have a championship ring, and we were talking about some player who maybe 5 or 6 years from now is going to need to go somewhere else to get that championship, maybe I would consider it. But I'm a little concerned, though, because you look at Tom Brady, and even his dad saying Tom's going to play until he's 45, and Tom knowing that at some point there's the disconnect there. No matter how amazing you've been, for the first 15 years of your career, when you still think you should be getting $45 million, who knows what the salary cap will be?
He's going to be the first $40 to $45 million per year player as a U.S. athlete in this country, LeBron James.
And still underpaid.
Exactly. So I think he made his intentions clear in that Sports Illustrated article that he's going home. I do think he's going to play out his career there. He has the championship, so why go elsewhere? They're going to do, for the most part, until the last few years of your career, whatever you want to do. But there is some gray area there for those final couple years, because no matter how beautiful and poetic and whatever that Amy Schumer moment is with, it's my Cleveland, that ends in professional sports, and most of the time it ends in real life, too. So those last couple years could get dicey if something happens like happened with Dwayne Wade, where he thinks he should get $20 million, they think he's worth 13, 14, they give him a few extra million for this year. We don't know what's going to happen going forward. Does that happen to LeBron if he's trying to play too long?
Being that I'm a sadistic person in our business, if he decided to leave Cleveland, it would be gold for us to just have something like that to talk about. Can you imagine? Twitter would break and not come back for a week if he decided to leave Cleveland for a second time. He's not going anywhere, because if you're LeBron James, I'm not saying his reputation is based on what's going to happen in Cleveland, whether they win the championship or not. His reputation could be based on, why would you want to be a guy that has mercenary attached to your name? Okay, things got tough. You decided to leave Cleveland again. The organization, we don't know what Cleveland's going to look like in 4 to 5 years. If they don't get a championship in that amount of time, maybe his mindset changes, because the reason I got the sense he left the first time was guys did not want to go to Cleveland to play with him. Plenty of guys they felt could help, and they said, deuces, I'm not going to do that. Went to Miami, guys couldn't wait the line to try to play with him, Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. Going back to Cleveland now, all of a sudden Kevin Love was like, well, I wavered, but yeah, you're a dude I want to play with. Kyrie Irving's like, oh yeah, you're a dude I want to play with as well. So it's different this time around, where it feels like, in LeBron James' mind, in my opinion, that at least he has a fighting chance, that whatever they need to get, whether it's the NBA salary cap going up or the fact that he is that seminal player in this league that guys want to play with, if he decided to just turn tail 4 or 5 years down the line, even if he's at the end of his career, to go somewhere else, I don't think his personality or the way he's made up would be able to deal with what's going to be the narrative, what's going to be the conversation after that?
I like to debate myself sometimes, so I'm going to give you what I think is I don't think you gave me the rebuttal that I deserve. Here's the rebuttal.
So you offer your own rebuttal.
To the absurd prediction that LeBron will stay there forever. Here's the best rule. Not that LeBron will have a change of heart, but that Dan Gilbert will have a change of heart.
You think so?
You can't do better than Dan Gilbert is doing LeBron right now. You just can't give him more. Flexibility, luxury tax he's paying to go over it. There's a repeater tax. You go over the luxury tax 2, 3 years, you start getting repeater tax. The bills start going up. If they don't win a title, Dan Gilbert looks down at that ledger, that balance sheet, and goes, wow, I'm losing a lot of money. And at that point says, I'm no longer giving $40 million to the Imam Shumperts of the world. I'll keep paying LeBron, but not these other guys. And at that point, LeBron goes, then I'm out.
But I offered that point in the beginning when I said that towards the end of his career, possibly,
I didn't mean to take anything away from you, Kate.
Well, you offered your own rebuttal.
I was making fun of myself, Kate.
It was like a rebuttal.
It was like, hey, no, I offered that, but towards the end, right? There could be a moment where it's like, hey, we're not investing, $120 million. We're not maxing out. We're not paying the luxury tax. And maybe we don't want to pay you $45 million if you're broken down, which is not impossible to think considering the miles that LeBron James has put on his body. That's the little gray area there. I don't know what kind of guy LeBron is, whether he's going to be the one who's like hits the final jumper, wins a title, and he's out. Or is he going to be the guy who wants to play and even when he's producing less and less? And that's where it gets dicey.
Dan Gilbert should thank his lucky stars that LeBron has the personality that he has, because if you did and said some of the things you said that he said to LeBron James when he decided to go to Miami, I'm the kind of person I'd be like, dude, go scratch. There's no way I'm coming back to help you. Granted, I don't want to leave my city. I know it means a lot to me, but that means that you're going to benefit from that as well. I give LeBron a lot of credit deciding to go back, because a lot of other people looked at Dan Gilbert and said, kiss my you-know-what.
Yep.
I'm going to still stay in Miami and go somewhere else.
No, I credit him for that. He's a classy guy. But I just want to point something out. Let's look at the Lakers and Kobe, and them paying him all that kind of money, and then he's injured. He hasn't been on the court for X amount of games. What if it's that kind of situation with LeBron down the road? And then what if another team gives him an offer that he can't refuse? Because we look at Pat Riley. He didn't want to give Wade that kind of money. Wade decided to stay, legacy, etc. But what if it's that kind of situation as well? And if you bring it to football, someone like Peyton Manning, did you ever think you'd see him not in a Colts uniform?
In a Cardinals uniform.
That's why we don't know how healthy he's going to be down the stretch, how effective, if he's still going to be at that level. And I know you were discussing the end of the career, so there's no absolute that he's staying in Cleveland just because of loyalty.
I'm not talking about loyalty.
Right.
I'm talking about not to Dan Gilbert. Yeah. But to the fact, I don't think his personality could deal with the kind of vitriol he's going to get from the Cleveland fans if he decides to do that again. The first time he did it, I'm going to Miami. But he still talked about it, man, that still affected me. That's the reason I came back home, to make it up to the Cleveland fans.
But we're talking 5 years down the road. You think he's worried about the fans then?
He's always going to be worried about what people think of him.
I do think people are always going to pay him because the same way the Lakers pay Kobe, because people come to the Staples Center to see Kobe. I think even if LeBron's broken down, that's an interesting thing to pay money to see, even if he's not at his peak anymore. But then the question becomes, all right, you're paying LeBron money, but you're not willing to invest around LeBron. Does he go elsewhere? Then he's, the second piece or the third piece, and he wants to continue to contend.
I agree with your point. In the end, none of us can predict the future. We have no idea what's going to happen on the outskirts of this timeline. But LeBron should probably realize he's in his golden years. It's not going to get, I don't mean golden years as in late in the game. I mean, it's not going to get any better than this. What he has right now is as good as it gets. Max money, max flexibility, and an owner all the way behind him.
And remember this, with Dan Gilbert, we can say that he may be losing money. After this season, they're getting $24 billion. From ESPN, ABC, and TNT. If Dan Gilbert's losing money, he may need to hire a new accountant. He should not be losing money.
Why is Dan Gilbert losing money? He sounds like all those owners in the lockout.
Exactly. They're not losing money.
Pretending like they're losing money.
Right. That's nonsense. They're not losing money at all.
So we can all agree we think LeBron's staying for right now.
We're good. Not for right now.
Let's see what Twitter has to say about this. Earlier in the show, we asked you guys, can King James win a title with this Cavs team? Hashtag chip for Cavs. And here's what Twitter said. Very divided. Yes, 53%. No, 47%. So they're split, kind of like us here. Yep. We're on the move here. Summer League kicked off on July 4th, where you get an opportunity to see the new rookie class play with some vets. So in light of that, we're going to play a little game. You guys remember high school superlatives? We have rookie superlatives, where we ask a question and you tell us if this player fits. All right, the first one here. What rookie will not live up to the hype?
All right, I'll start us off here.
Yeah.
Ladies first.
D'Angelo Russell.
Ooh, ladies first.
All right. And I don't want Laker fans to start tweeting me already.
Laker
They
Nation's
will.
already fired up.
Just wait for it later in the show.
Fagan
Look,
three.
I went hard on the statistical analysis here. I do a podcast with 538, Nate Silver's site called Hot Takedown.
Shout
We're
out.
always, that's right, got a shout out. We're always looking at numbers, and they actually, it's really interesting about D'Angelo Russell. I think it's possible he's going to be awesome. There's also, according to their numbers, a 40% chance he's the equivalent of a bust, which would be like not a starter. You know, there's a lot of different measurables there, but 40% chance that he's a bust, which is the highest in that first round of the NBA draft class. And I actually think that, because I kind of relate it to like redlining a car, there's a chance that he is going to be going really fast and awesome, and the closer you get to awesome, the closer you get to the engine failing, right? So that's kind of how I see this guy. There's a chance he's going to be amazing, and when you do that, there's also a chance that all those measurables that factor in do not mesh the way that we think they're going to.
But the shout out by her for Car Talk. I thought it was on NPR for a second that originally
That's how I
described that
do.
whole thing.
Right?
That's how you
High
get
risk,
down.
high reward.
Yeah, well done. I'm taking Jahlil Okafor because I think so much is expected of him in Philadelphia that there's no way he'll be able to live up to that hype. I think he's going to be a solid player early on, but when you're in an organizational situation where you don't know what's going on and you don't know how they're going to operate, will they continue to tank? Will they bring any kind of assets to help you in the basketball court? Will Joel Embiid ever come back and play for this team or play at any given time along with Nerlens Noel? That's a lot that he's going to have to shoulder, especially when he's the one guy that they needed as a low post player. I think it's almost going to be impossible for Jahlil Okafor to live up to any hype that's going to be out there.
So the key to this question is hype, right? There's only 3 players in the NBA draft that had any hype: Jahlil Okafor, D'Angelo Russell, and Karl Anthony Towns. My selection of who doesn't live up to the hype will be Okafor as well. For one reason, you got to be able to play defense. And when Coach K pulls you out of a championship game because you're not playing defense right, and Frank Kaminsky is subsequently shut down, you are going to have trouble in the NBA. So Okafor wants to play a big in the NBA, he's going to have to play defense.
All right, moving on. I think you guys won the superlative for best debater in high school. Is that correct? No.
I never shut up, so I got best not shutting up in high school.
All right, no, I'll stay focused here. What rookie will exceed expectations? Okay.
This was a tough one for me, but I went with Stanley Johnson because, again, some 538 here, but there's a lot of factors about why guys perform well in the NBA, and one of the key ones is frequency of two-point shots, because that relates to just your ability to get your own shot. It kind of speaks to the fact that just athleticism, lanky, you can mold that guy. If he can get his own shot, you can teach him to take the right shot. So I think actually he dropped a little bit in the draft. I think he's going to perform way above the level he was drafted at.
I like Trey Lyles of Utah. I think he's going to a perfect situation. In a couple of years, Utah's going to be a pain in the you-know-what, the teams in the Western Conference. You got Rudy Gobert, who's really, really good. Dante Exum's going to come along with Burke in the backcourt. But Lyles is the kind of new-age frontline guy you need that has a skill set that we didn't see a lot of Kentucky because he's part of the galaxy of One Direction stars on that basketball team. But I think his upside is only going to increase playing in an up-tempo style in Utah. I think that's the one guy people aren't talking about, that his upside, his expectations, I think Trey Lyles in Utah will be able to exceed those.
All right, so the key on the last question was hype, right? So the key on this one is expectations. I think I'm clearly right. It is Porzingis. I don't even know his first name.
Because there are no expectations.
I don't even know if I can pronounce it.
Kristaps.
Exactly.
I think
Because
you
there
know it.
are no expectations. The dude was totally booed in New York at the NBA draft.
Stephen A. Smith, was he one of them?
There's always expectations in New York.
Molly, I'm sorry, but there are no expectations on this guy, Kate. He doesn't have to go far to exceed them.
I get it. I
like
see what
that.
you're doing there. I actually agree with that one. What rookie will get dunked on?
We'll stick with this guy whose first name we don't know.
That's the layup.
Is he going to be in the game playing games
That's
long
my
enough?
only issue is, should I just have gone really logistic and straightforward thinking here? Who's going to be in the game in the first minute of an NBA game to get dunked on, and pick some other big guy? Because he could be sitting. That's my only.
That little asterisk
Otherwise, if he's on the floor, he's the first guy to get dunked on. He's thin, he's lanky, he doesn't have the power. Guys are going to come right at him.
You look at him and you see Sean Bradley. That's what you
Oh, boy.
You don't know.
Wow.
So Porzingis.
That's good.
So you're going Porzingis again?
Yes.
In 2 words, weight room.
Wait, one more.
Introduce yourself.
Protein shake.
Yes.
2 other words, eat something. Or eat a lot of things.
Or bad.
My personal take would have been Larry Nance Jr. getting dunked by Kobe Bryant in practice of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
So since that's not going to happen, I think that would likely got to get dunked on first is Willie Cauley-Stein, because for me, he may be the best athlete in the draft, and he has not met a jump shot or a shot that he did not want to try to block. So I think he's going to be in the line of fire because he's going to be the starting center. Boogie Cousins playing power forward. If he and George Karl can work that out in Sacramento, he's going to try to block everything. And there's going to be a couple of guys going, oh, you ain't snatching me. I'm going to snatch you first. So I'll take Willie Cauley-Stein on that.
We had the same thought process, Freddie. I thought about practice. Karl Anthony Towns. It's no judgment on him.
Practice.
He's great. Kevin Garnett is going to teach him a lesson.
Nice.
Kevin Garnett is going to teach Karl Anthony Towns a lesson right away and dunk on him. So no matter how great Karl Anthony Towns is, and he is, he's going to be the first to get dunked on by Kevin Garnett.
Okay.
Teammate on teammate crime, that's what you're saying?
In practice, yeah.
I like that. I don't mind that.
Hey, it gets heated in practice. What rookie will win MVP first? We're crowning him right now.
Yep. So this is where the Lakers fans can now tweet at me some love, because I also have D'Angelo Russell winning possibly being the first guy to win the MVP. And that is because of what I talked about earlier. He could be a bust, but there is so much upside and the way the NBA is going, guard dominated. I think of all of the guys in those top 6 picks, I would think of him first, especially because he's playing with the Lakers, and they're always good at building. Well, they're usually good at building championship teams, putting him in a position to be in that running.
When you play for the Lakers, there's a certain standard that you're going to have to aspire to or to really climb yourself up on. And now you're with an organization that's had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Jerry West, and still Kobe Bryant. If you're D'Angelo Russell, I think he can be that star in Los Angeles where you say, okay, he can be the kind of player that guys will want to play with. Oh, D'Angelo Russell's there in L.A.? You know, I know they have a fighting chance because they have that guy. His ability to guard at both ends and be that long, lean guard that can level off Western Conference guards when he gets to the speed of the NBA, I'm with you. I like D'Angelo Russell being the first one to win the MVP.
Let's just put them all up. All three the same. This is sports experting. This is sports experting at its finest, right? Like, we know who's going to be the first MVP.
Sure we do.
I thought about why I think D'Angelo Russell's going to be the first. I don't know. I think Kate actually led me in this direction when you talked about Porzingis being the first to get dunked on. You may or may not believe this, but you've seen Sean Bradley when you see Porzingis. We see the Lakers jersey, and you didn't say it, I did.
Okay.
We see the Lakers jersey, and we think MVP. Magic, Kobe, Shaq. D'Angelo Russell carrying that team, opportunity to become the star as Kobe fades away. I see MVP. Is there any real rational reason? I think it's the Lakers jersey. Okay.
All right, the last one here. What rookie will win a title first?
I mean, realistically, I wanted to pick Russell again, but I thought I was going to be, like, overloaded with picking him for 3. So I went with Winslow. And I think because I don't even know that necessarily I see him winning with the Miami Heat. Because if you look at the top of the NBA draft chart, you know, because I could pick a guy who played for the Cavs or the Warriors and like, oh, they're going to win next year. But I think in keeping with the spirit of it, I think he's a guy who in a few years could possibly fill any role for a team or get traded to a team where he's the kind of last piece, wingman guy who does a lot. So I think in a few years it's possible he's on a contender.
I'm going to say Cameron Payne of Oklahoma City because you're going to a ready-made team. Yeah. I know Billy Donovan's a new head coach, but if Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook can stay healthy the whole season, we're talking 2 of the top 5 players in the NBA on one basketball team, and you're Cameron Payne, you're going to that team to learn from both of those guys. Oklahoma City is talented enough that they can win a championship this upcoming season because not a lot of teams wanted to see them in the playoffs. I'm going to put Cameron Payne because I think he's in the best possible situation going to that team in Oklahoma City.
I went by the same analysis. Cameron Payne was almost my pick, but I picked Tyus Jones. It's going to Cleveland. I think Cleveland has the best shot to win.
You're not keeping the spirit of it, though.
The first. The question is, who's going to be the first?
The spirit was like a contributor, you know, like an integral part.
I don't read spirits. I read words.
You didn't.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt, frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
According to a report in Politico, the U.S. women's national team will earn a $2 million bonus for its victory in the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup, compared with the $35 million the German men's soccer team got for its victory over Argentina in the 2014 World Cup. So the U.S. men's team, which was eliminated in the first knockout round of the 2014 World Cup, received $8 million in prize money, 4 times the amount of its champion counterpart. The total prize money for the Women's World Cup was $15 million, compared with $576 million for the men's tournament. How about them apples? What do we make of this?
Oh, well, please.
No. We got to
Who?
We got to start with you.
We
Will.
do?
Yeah,
do?
it's all you.
Got to start with the Grinch. That's what they're saying.
No, you pulled the short stick. Go for it, buddy.
One, Mr. Green.
Here's what I would say. I think it's important that you laid out the total pool of dollars that the Men's World Cup drew versus the Women's World Cup. That, first of all, is impacting it. And, by the way, as a percentage, 2 of 15, if I'm doing my math right, is a lot more than 35 of 500. Am I right on that math? You will tell me if I'm wrong, I'm sure.
Listen, journalism major. You're asking the wrong person.
We often want to look for discrimination. It's easy to separate the world into white hats and black hats, good guys and bad guys. But that's simply not always the way the world works. Now, when it comes to FIFA and Sepp Blatter, I will not be one to sit here and argue that there's no way discrimination is involved in this. But I will be one to argue there are other things that impact this than potentially discrimination, like TV contracts, like sponsorship dollars, like in-stadium ticket sales. All of that contributing to that pool which you just showed us, that the men's game is simply more popular and earns more money. Thus the disparity in the pay income from $35 million to $2 million.
Go for it, Freddie.
Women's sports are always going to be treated as second class in this country as long as men don't speak up or more men don't watch. That's what it comes right down to. They're going to look at that and say, okay, we know we have a lot of men and women watching the World Cup in stadiums and watching it on TV. We can't say that that's the same case with the Women's World Cup with the United States winning. I mean, I'm all about patriotic fever. I didn't think they were going to be Germany in the semifinals. I was glad to be wrong. I was glad that the women won. But I also look at that. I wonder how much of that is a one-time event where we're talking about women's soccer in the incoming 4 years leading up to the next World Cup. And I think that's where that discrepancy is always going to be there when it comes with money, because we can look at World Cup stadiums and say, okay, 90,000 watched the preliminary in Brazil. We saw a lot of empty seats with preliminaries with the Women's World Cup that happened in Canada. So until more men start watching and more men speak up in positions of power to say, hey, this is relevant now, we have to find a way to make it more relevant. Until that day happens, that money pool is always going to seem completely unfair to women. When you think about it in the overall scheme of things, it is fair because more people are watching those men's sports because men's sports are on TV more. Men's sports will get more publicity, more attention, more. And that's because of the fact that people still have that perception that men, especially men, don't want to watch women's sports to the level that they watch football, they watch baseball, they watch basketball. Until that changes with young men now, with boys now saying, I want to be Carly Lloyd, I want to be Abby Wambach, and not afraid to say that in front of mixed company, then you're always going to have that disconnect when it comes to money. And I just wonder if that's ever going to change when it comes to women's sports being compared to men's sports. I don't know about discrimination.
Right.
I think that plays a part in it, like Will said. But I think because more men and women watch men's sports together as opposed to men and women watching women's sports together.
Yeah. I guess here's my thing on this is that people want to frame it as if wanting to invest in women's sports equals like a cause or it's like some sort of
Charity.
Socialism. What happened to venture capitalism here? You're a business guy, right? You look at the Women's World Cup, you look at women's soccer, you look at the numbers. Fox made $17 million this year in ad revenue, 3 times more than ESPN made in 2011. Look at the TV ratings versus where they were before. You don't make money until you invest money. So if you had a young business and it wasn't making money, you wanted to put venture capital dollars into it to feed back into the bottom of that business to help it continue to grow, that would be called smart business, which is what should be happening in women's soccer right now. Because when you look at the prize money that they're offering, that's not just like women going out and spending it buying houses or whatever they could buy with it, maybe like a small car with that kind of money. That money is going back into those countries so that they can grow their programs. So if FIFA was putting more money in, certain countries would get better. Those preliminary games would draw better. There would be more ad revenue. We'd see the business grow. My issue, and I'm not saying that you specifically were saying this, people look at investing in women's sports as if it's a cause and never looking at how we look at businesses that lose money and yet we invest venture capital.
They don't think they can
That's
make money
the
on
issue.
women's sports.
But,
I think a lot of
and there are a
believe
lot of, because we're not sitting here talking about the NWSL, right? We're not saying how come venture capitalists aren't in the NWSL, because we have an issue with when you take patriotism away and you take media attention away, we can't seem to figure out women's sports. I have plenty of ideas for another segment. But my problem is when we could have a perfect venture capital opportunity here for women's soccer that nobody seems to be taking advantage of, and is completely looking at the existing numbers, like saying men make this, women make this, therefore this is the only amount we should be giving to the women, and not looking at the exponential growth, which is far bigger when you talk about TV and revenue by, not dollars, but in terms of percentage growth. So put some more money back into the women's game. Maybe you'd see sold-out stadiums.
You may be right. I don't know. Here's the beauty of capitalism. We'll figure it out. Meaning, dollars don't
Not when discrimination comes into it. That's where you go back to that.
Women. Dollars don't see black and white. Dollars see green. And if there's money to be made in the women's game, I promise you money will chase it. Investment will chase it if there's money made. Now,
we're talking about the length of the process.
Based on the TV ratings of the U.S. women's national team, you're right. It would look like there's a business opportunity here. That being said, if the U.S. women's national team isn't in that final, what are the ratings? You compared it to Germany, 35 million. What if the U.S. men were?
Why were we operating in what-ifs, though? They were in the final. They are a dominant.
But no, when you're projecting when I say it's going to be a good business, you have to deal with the what-ifs in the future. What I'm telling you is, you just saw the women's game at its peak. It performed, not just the team on the field, but the entertainment value of what we saw on TV was wonderful. Ratings beat Game 7 of the World Series.
One of the top teams.
What's that?
Yeah, they're repeatedly one of the top teams.
And also,
but I'm saying if they're not in the game, I don't think the ratings reflect the same way.
That's where the money comes in, because you're talking about programs that are making no money from attending FIFA and playing games. Men's programs making millions, pouring them back in, so we're seeing teams grow so that there isn't one dominant team. So if Germany's down a year, you've got 8 to 10 teams that can compete. On the women's side, there's no money that's funded, so they can't go back and grow their program so that you're not solely dominant on the U.S. So, yeah, there's a business opportunity, but when you say, why is it so slow? Because they're playing on turf. They're not pouring money back into the resources. You've got people making comments about how they should wear tighter shorts. Those are all discriminatory reasons. So it's not just solely capitalism here.
That's all well and good, and you make a very fair point, but let's be honest. Until the women's game has that one singular person that can carry a sport, that's where it's going to stay. It was great that the women's team had that great moment, but when we think of the NBA, we think of one guy, like LeBron James or Kevin Durant.
Who was Mia Hamm then?
Well, Mia Hamm, that's it, and it still didn't grow. It still didn't grow from that standpoint. And she was a seminal player in the sport.
First Take is back on the road for the ESPYs, and guess who else is back? Skip and Stephen A. will return to the desk for 3 shows in Los Angeles starting next Monday, July 13th. We will have special celebrity guests joining the show all week long. And it looks like Skip is clearly excited to be back, and everybody will be excited to see him as well. Yesterday, he tweeted, counting the days until Stephen A. and I return to the First Take debate desk next Monday, so don't miss First Take from Los Angeles. He also tweeted again today, so he's still counting people. He's ready to come back. We're ready to see him too as well. It's been a long layoff for Skip. So we expect he's got a lot to say there, and we're looking forward to seeing him. Yesterday, she beat Maria Sharapova for the 17th straight time, and now Serena Williams is 1 win away from her 21st Grand Slam title and 4th in a row, which we like to call the Serena Slam. Hey! With the win, she would still be in position to accomplish something she's never done, win the calendar slam. Also dominating is Jordan Spieth, who will tee it up next week in the Open Championship, seeking his 3rd straight major title this season. He's had a nice run. And King James has had his fair share of success as well, playing in 5 straight NBA Finals, something that has only been accomplished by the great Celtics teams of the 50s and the 60s. Back to the ladies. Is Serena the most dominant athlete in sports?
It's not even a question. Of course she is. She has no rival. She's like Tiger Woods from 97. Yes, she is. She has no rival. Someone said, well, Sharapova and Serena's a rival. I'm like, 17-0 the last 17 times? That's not a rivalry. That's a misunderstanding. Apparently, Maria Sharapova misunderstands that you can't beat Serena, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. Tiger Woods dominated golf from 97 to 2008. It was Tiger Woods versus everybody else. There was no Phil Mickelson. It was David DeVaul one year, Leonard, whoever. He dominated the sport. Serena's 20-4 in major finals. She keeps getting better, and she keeps getting older. She has no rival. Right now, she doesn't get the respect because she plays a women's sport, and people are still going to have their teeth cut about Serena whatever way they want. But there's no question, right now, she's the most dominant athlete in American sports. She's like Pele when he played in soccer. That's what she is.
I agree. I think Serena is the most dominant athlete in sports, period. And she has been. She's done this over 15 years now.
I know.
She's won 19 women's titles. The rest of the Women's Tennis Association field has won 21. She's almost won as much as everyone else combined. And you could talk about Tiger, had a stretch. You could play the team sports guys like LeBron or Peyton. No, when you're in a team sport, you can't dominate like that. Jimmy Johnson had a run in NASCAR. Serena Williams is the most dominant athlete in sports.
And I know we're talking dominant, but I'll also add that I love when athletes stand for more and represent more, and she, in what she's done for tennis and the conversations she started, are also so important for that sport. And then when we talk actually on the court, and you brought it up, like, how do we measure dominant athletes? A lot of times it's like, how do they do against their absolute rivals? And she doesn't have one, but you could name Maria Sharapova. And like you said, won not just 17-0, but 34 of 36 sets. And the only thing people come at Serena with is like, you played during a weak generation, which we have no context for.
Right.
P.S. Because why don't we prop Sharapova or Venus Williams, who's also suffered because she's played, like, in terms of number of championships. I don't know, play them in the 90s, plop them down in the 90s, see how many titles they win. I bet Maria Sharapova wins a lot of titles then. So that's the only knock on her, but how do we even judge that? When you're bringing up hypotheticals, that means that she is.
Serena gets the vote, especially at this age here. You guys, we got to wrap things up here. Freddie, Will, Cain. It was fun.
It was so much fun,
right?
Yes.
We had a very good time. Herm as well. And next week, back from L.A., Stephen A. and Skip will be in the house. ESPYs week, a ton of guests. You don't want to miss it. Thank you guys so much for hanging with us, and have a fantastic weekend. It's Friday, folks.
Welcome back, Skip and Stephen A.
Yes.
Your vacation is over, gentlemen.
TGIF.
You too.
Yes, ready to work.